Right. Hello, 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 and welcome to Shared Space. How are y'all doing today?
Happy Monday. Happy Monday.
Yes,
Happy Monday.
indeed.
Hey, Miss Charlene, how you doing over there?
I'm doing.
Right,
It's
right,
Monday.
right. Let's get it started. So, hey guys, I am Quida. I'm the founder and director of Baltimore Homes. We build micro shelters and tiny homes for folks who are unhoused. We also build community by sharing space virtually here every Monday at 7:05 with Chap and I. And then Sundays at Walk with the Doc, 9 a.m. at Lake Montebello, which is how I met Charlene. And we have been involved in quite a few things since I met you last year. But before we get into that, go ahead and introduce yourself, Chap.
I am Chaplain David Lovelace through Baltimore City Police. So everyone calls me Chap. I am in the community. I don't know, humanitarian community guy. Trying to just support people doing really good things in the community, like Quida with Baltimore Homes, like our nonprofit, me and Lewis Thomas with PowerFest Baltimore, breadcoin.org, and Hug Don't Shoot, and known as Monique. And the list is huge, right? Because Baltimore's doing a lot of good things. So every week we're blessed enough to have people doing good things on the show, which brings us to Miss Charlene Rock Foster. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Oh my God. Let's see. How can I do this? Because you named some names. So I consider myself more or less a community advocate, and that's the space I've been in the past. Oh, I want to say like 5 years now, 5, 6 years. Um, I'm I'm a collaborator. I'm someone that shows up and asks the question, "How can I serve my community?" And by asking that question and actually showing up, I've been fortunate and blessed to be in spaces with some wonderful people. I'm an ambassador of Baltimore Ceasefire. That movement has started in 2017 to ask a question: How can we, as residents, um, just tackle the issue of violence and do the self determination work? So that kind of snowballed into meeting some awesome people, to include Quida. We was at Walk with a Doc, and I was this person that likes to wear different sweatshirts because I felt like I've kind of supported a whole lot of organizations and
Yeah.
movements at this point. So it's like if I wore the sweatshirt, more likely I'm kind of tied into it in some kind of ways. And yeah, right now I've been fortunate also to be a part of Northeast Leaders. What it is a small group of individuals who live in the Northeast area who decided to come together and show up and say, hey, look, what can we do for our community? Who are we a part of, and how can we just make sure that we stay connected and stay in touch with our communities?
Sign me up.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. Not to mention, you're also a member of Girl Track, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
A member of Girl Track. But we have an event coming up together, which is part of the reason why we have you on today. So let me see if I can get this thing to share. We are working on the digital equity project. Did it open? What is it that you all see?
So I can add it to the stream. There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
You, all right. So this is the digital equity project, and we'll be meeting at Making Good in our community lot on Saturday, April 16th from 10 to 12. We'll be talking about the digital inequities in Baltimore. And, that's my jam because that relates to housing, that relates to redlining, and all of those other great things. And then let me see, we have two more announcements, and then I'll come right back to that. Also, Pages of My Journey by Cody Brookdale. This is the book that we were talking about last week as well, about the weight loss journey. And I feel like this kind of ties to the next thing that we're also going to talk about, which is Walk with the Doc. But we're always talking about all the different ways that we can connect mindfulness and wellness. And I feel like this is one of those books that ties in right that way. But like we said, what started all of this was Walk with the Doc, and that's every Sunday, 9 a.m. at Lake Montebello. So, Chapo, you can take that off if you don't mind. And so, Charlene, tell me, like, what got you involved in the digital inequity in the Bel Air Edison area?
Okay, so let's start with the opportunity that was presented to me last year. I want to say around August, September. So, as me being a part of Northeast Leaders, I was receiving emails of different events and classes, and also just community information. So, one of the things was that Dell had a digital equity class, and it was kind of like a thing where um, it was kind of competitive because they only had like so many slots, so you had to apply to be a part of that class, that cohort thing, and I almost didn't apply because it was kind of like, do I have room for this? But I changed my mind and said, well, let me just go ahead and do it anyways, and got accepted. So that was great. So it was like a 5-week class, if you will, with different people from the communities and organization. And we were talking about digital access in Baltimore, which brings me to where we are now. Because after that class was over, there was a project again. That's one of those things where you had to apply for that came about, right? And again, it was one of those things was like, do I want to do this? I'm not going to do this unless I had the community buy-in, which I did. So went ahead and applied, got approved to do this project, and here we are right now.
So
Because this is like the second part of it.
I had a quick question, if I can interrupt
Sure.
for a minute. So explain to me exactly what does digital equity mean when you say you took the digital equity class?
Right now, Baltimore is one of the cities where they're looking at bringing broadband, community broadband into the city, making it so that everyone has access to it. But the problem with that is, as we saw in 2020, when we went into this pandemic and there was this lockdown, if you will, and we realized that there were quite a few homes that did not have access to internet.
Got it.
As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, let me see, it like over 20,000 households did not have access to internet. So that was a problem right there.
And
let me
look,
add
go
let me
ahead.
add this also, Chap, that one thing that people often like exclude when they think about digital equity and inequity is kind of where I come in. The idea that not everybody has access to a computer or a cell phone. You know, I work with the unhoused population. Like, we're struggling to figure out how to keep their cell phones charged. And during the pandemic, so many things transitioned to just being available online that a huge population was excluded because in some cases, households only have cell phone access, and there was no mobile, alternative. You had to use a desktop computer of some sort. So thinking of the instruments and the tools that people use, while including the modem, the router, are these things up to date? Are they going to be able to handle broadband, or is it an upgrade and a learning opportunity for the person whose house it's going to go in? So even when, the opportunity exists, is everybody really going to have access? So go ahead, Charlene.
So, real quick to compare, I'm sorry, because I have one more fact I'm dwelling on, because you said about 20,000 homes did not have digital equity.
More than that, because it's a wild number, because I wasn't even aware just how that it was that many.
When it comes to it, listen, So much of Baltimore's population is under HUD, housing facility. So when we take just the HUD population, 40% of those people have no digital access. 35% of those people are underutilized in their access, meaning they probably only have a cell phone. So even if we're talking about all of Baltimore, let's just think about the housing population that we all know that exists. And those statistics are, what we have the most recent of. So there's a huge deficit that needs to be addressed.
And that's what I wanted to share is a couple more statistics. We have 80,000 kids in city public schools, and you have multiple kids in a home, then you're talking about a significant number of people. And when we talk about our kids, if you're not from Baltimore and you're watching, you don't understand, 90% of those enrolled are labeled as minority and people of color. So those are some of the stats to go along with your comment.
But to that point, if it's me and my two sisters and we all have to use the same computer to do our homework, like that's another inequity. That's another access issue, because now we have to use this one device between three people. Where, in some houses, there's multiple computers. Like most of the people in my immediate family, we have multiple computers in our family. So to think about folks in that way is hard for the people who are making the decisions and putting things in place. And it's really just something that is an afterthought when people start complaining, if they even find out that the opportunity existed, because it was never something that they had access to.
So Absolutely. Go ahead, Charlene. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. So just so we can get exact numbers, and this is 2020. So we're in 22. So we're still working on that. 75,000 Baltimore City households, or 1 in 3, do not have either a desktop or laptop computer. And that was around May of 2020. And then specifically 19,000 households with children in the city do not have wireline broadband at home, or 34.7%. So that's significant in itself.
That's huge. And so then that means that so many of those students rely on access at the school to get access to their digital connectivity, right? But if school is closed for a year and a half and they don't have access to that, and there's limited space at the library, or there's an issue getting to the nearest library because how public transportation is, it's like all these barriers. And so yeah.
Yeah, and think about the time where you hear stories about people actually going to McDonald's, trying to plug into a hotspot on these restaurants. And it's like, this is crazy. This is happening in 2020, in 2021. Yeah, in some cases 2022. And that because
absolutely.
And that because we're not in this pandemic operation that looked like what it was in 2020. It doesn't mean that problems went away. And then when you're looking at how everything else is online, even just something like applying for a job or learning courses, all of these things are online. So if you don't have access
to that point, applying to the job, yes, but then obtaining a job, like now you have all these companies are going virtual, and now you don't even have access to those companies because you're not familiar with using a computer. You don't have access to a computer. You don't have access to the proper, devices. And so it's yet again another barrier. So there's the barrier to applying to the jobs. Then there's the barrier to attaining and then keeping the job, because you need to have the wherewithal to understand, your digital connectivity. Continue, Miss Charlene.
Hey, you added that part right there, because I was going to cover that as well. So you're talking about the application, and then also when when you get the job, then you're looking at the fact that like the big thing was to work remotely, right? And even in our population, like maybe less than 35% of African Americans were able to work remotely. 35%.
That's huge. That
Yeah.
is huge. And for me, my degree is in computer science. So not to have access at home to me is just like baffling. That's crazy, right? But that is the reality of way more people than most people think. I was on two projects in the past year where part of the complaint was the access and the connectivity for people who had to call in or use a paper form was non-existent or an afterthought. And so in these cases, funding was available to, the larger population, but by the time everybody had access and everybody understood that now paper applications are being accepted, we're taking phone calls, we can't just do this online, again, people are marginalized. And so it's like a continuous vicious cycle, unfortunately.
One thing I'll add, go a little deeper on your stats. You said 34, 35%.
35%. Mm-hmm.
Well,
We're
take
able
into
to work
account
remotely.
and take into account that only 12% of specifically African Americans in America are employed right now. Well, as of like 2021. So take 12% of those who are able to work, and now you just cut that down to 1/3 of that. So you're talking 4% now that are working. That's tough. Those are tough stats.
Right.
And I feel like in Baltimore, I will say, and on a positive, the silver lining is that there is a huge boom in entrepreneurship that I've seen. I've been here 44 years. I never seen people starting so many businesses now. So like the flip to the other side of it, we're not working for someone, but we're getting people hitting these streets, and there's like so many entrepreneur programs across the city. If you got a business idea, you should have been done it. And there's like so many people doing it. They will help you. We will help you. We
Absolutely.
got 5-year-olds
Absolutely.
starting businesses, right, Quida? Am I lying?
You are not lying with the brunch
Mm-mm.
pitch contest, with
Yep. And them girls
Danielle.
are doing a podcast on Saturday mornings now.
These are
Wow.
children, 5 and 7 years old, I think.
Yes. Yes.
Like, yeah. But those opportunities exist because they have access, because it's an online, you know what I mean? Like, let's continue to just see what, what digital access does for people. Like, if these 5 and 7 year olds didn't have the ability to use programs and put up their website and run their live stream, like, they wouldn't have they wouldn't have those opportunities. So these are opportunities that our poor babies right here in Baltimore, right here in our backyards, are missing out on because the infrastructure doesn't exist. Like, we know, Charlene, the map for, what is it? Is it the FCC? I feel like that's the wrong organization, but their map is incorrect, and Baltimore looks like we have more connectivity or something. Do you have more
Yeah,
information
and
on
we
that? You
don't.
remember?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I can't remember the exact wording, but it was misleading, and actually not was is because no, we don't actually have the kind of connectivity that folks think we do, which
And
is why
data
this
can be
is
manipulated.
why that awareness needs to go out. It's like
Mm-hmm.
no, we just don't have it.
And
Right.
that's why it's so important for people like you to speak up, Charlene, because so many times in my experience serving Baltimore and button heads with administration and government agencies is that they're relying on data, and data can be manipulated, and we're here screaming at the top of our lungs, no, 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 this is not what it looks like. But they're like, well, the data says this, so the budget goes here, and blah, blah, blah. And so we have to make noise and say, well, that's not how it works in real life. We have to tell them because they really think they're doing some stuff, you know?
And that's why like I got involved because when I started listening and finding out, and now this is not my wheelhouse, right? But at the same time, I understand the importance of having internet access or be able to work from a computer because like majority of my work is involved around being online. When I'm at physically at work or at home, and then just even schooling. I've done it on the computer. So to me, it's like I get it, but it's like, how did we get to this point where here we are, where we should have at least 80% of the households with several devices, and we're still not there. And then also there's this belief that you have to be of a particular background or skill set. It's like, no, I'm up here being as loud as I can be and letting folks know this really matters. This is impacting your neighborhood. If you realize that this is even a form of structural racism, if you look at it, then understand
Absolutely.
that
That's
like you
that's
get
what we
locked
point
out
to
of the
with the
process.
stats. Yeah, that's what we point to with the stats. Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Not to mention, it's layered on top of the housing issues. It's layered on top of redlining. It's layered on top of educational issues. It's all these different things that are now impacted because of digital equity, because of disinvestment. And Charlene, you actually just pointed out something like, in addition to the jobs and the applications and keeping them, you're also limited to what you can learn and the skill sets that you can acquire and the information that you have access to. So it's so many of these different hurdles. So those are the things that we know, right? So some of the solutions that we're working toward with this particular project, when we met at Bel Air Edison, we had folks there
Mm-hmm.
from, what are they called? Code schools,
Oh,
Charlene?
code in the schools.
Code in the schools. And they were there helping folks understand, how to use equipment if they had questions about, connectivity. But they're also going to be available on Saturday at the digital equity event. So, or digital inequity, I should say. So, keeping that in mind, training people and, just exposing folks to these types of devices and opportunities will continue to make people comfortable with asking questions, getting involved, and, perhaps even learn something that they can train and teach to the rest of their household. So that's really what we're all about. Each one teach one.
And look, we're gonna go with digital equity because we are gonna speak positive, right? So we're gonna promote digital equity.
I'm with it. I'm all about the abundance mindset. So that's why I get tripped up all the time. So
Oh
I'm
yeah,
with it.
And for me, I used it because I know that there is that narrative, but then it's like, you see the negative of it, but then we have to flip it, to give that positive outcome.
that's right.
And and,
Yes.
and and it's to a point where um even those who feel as if they don't have all of the information or the skill set, it's like, no, just start here, and then you build upon it, and you bring everybody in.
And
Right.
that's.
Right.
Are you from Baltimore, Charlene?
Originally, no.
I
I've
didn't
been
think you
here
were, but
long enough.
it's so funny, but because like I could tell from how you talk that you're not, but you got that spirit because that's the Baltimore vibe is like we figure it out.
Right.
I mean,
And
you
I've been
figure it
here
out.
for over 30 years. So
Right,
it's
you learn
like,
as you go,
I'm invested.
right, and you learn as you go, and so you say that this isn't your wheelhouse, but you're making it your wheelhouse. You know what I'm saying? You're taking the time to invest in it, so you're going to be people's go-to for this. So it's your new wheelhouse, man.
Right. And Charlene, I feel like you got pulled in like I got pulled in. Like it was something that you couldn't ignore. It relates to anything that you're doing in the community. You recognize that it's a disservice to your community not to have it. And
Hmm.
so, in my mind, like, yeah, we built micro shelters and tiny homes for folks, but what's stopping us from space making in a vacant lot, putting a micro shelter there, and putting an antenna so that we can create a community mesh network? Like,
Right.
those are the solutions that I'm like, well, if the community buys in, we can train the community to use the materials, to install the modems, to maintain the routers and the network, and da 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 da. So now we're creating jobs, we're creating confidence, we're literally creating the network with the people in the community. And I think if it's something that is desired by the community, then by all means, to start tracking what does it take to even ask Morgan, can we tap into their fiber, or is it better to just start? Oh, like where do we? Let's do it. Let's figure it out, right?
Right.
So when is the next meeting for the Northeast leaders?
All right. Our next meeting is going to be Thursday, April the 21st.
All right, I'm about to bring you my neighbor. We live in Northeast off of Glendale and Hartford Road. But we've had him on talking about Bitcoin before, and he's one of the guys that Quida talked to for a couple hours after we close the studio down, because this guy's smart. And we're gonna get you plugged in with him because he's part of I'm not really sure even how to describe it because it's not my wheelhouse yet, even though I helped him install antennas on his house. But he's part of this, like, if you think of like the old school ham radios. Well, there's a people building a network, an internet network, using with that similar idea. It's like a homegrown internet that you don't have to pay for. It's but you do have to have like an antenna to create the umbrella. So, but he's a guy who knows about all these things and coding, and he's really technologically sound and military trained. So he would have some good insights, man.
Nice. Yeah.
So we'll see you on the 21st for sure, because we're right in your home court.
I think that would be really good. Bring him to walk with the doc too. Like other people that I think Trek would be dope to be introduced to, because he's a wealth of knowledge. He has so much knowledge. But I think that's a really good point. That even getting him involved, and he's involved with the idea of Bitcoin and all of that great stuff. So all of it, the digital aspect of it, the virtual world of it all, and just the different opportunities that it creates. So, Charlene, what do you think people can expect if they can make it to the event on Saturday? What do you hope to achieve?
Well, one, the dialogue about what it looks like to have internet in your backyard. Okay, so we start with that. Also, making it intergenerational, where there is the focus on the youth to make sure that they plug into coding and understanding it, and then at the same time you have people who are elders who are in my age group who are still trying to navigate this. So we don't want to leave them out either, because they bring something of value to the table too. A and B, they're still among us, and they have to use the internet like we do, right? AARP,
whatever, right?
I'm just saying.
But you're right. Yeah.
No, I love it. Look, my sons out here are young men that are in our sphere of influence, and we mentor, build relationships with, and while we mentor them, they teach us, right? But they're really receptive to what I appreciate is they're really receptive when I have men. I bring men in who are older than me. Man, the young guys love talking to them because they know there's so much wealth and value in those conversations and relationships, man. Technology is very surreptitious, and technology gives us the false sense of being more connected while dividing us.
Mm-hmm.
And technology is a way to gap our older people and younger people, right? They don't want us talking. They don't want us getting together and doing stuff, and people need to see it for that. Facebook, you might have 3,000 friends. And I might have 30, but I got 30 friends. Like, I can call you in 3 a.m. You're going to answer the phone. You know what I mean? It's right. Different. I got 30, more than 30. I probably do have 3,000, but people in Baltimore that I can just walk in their home, go grab something out the fridge and not get cussed out. You know what I mean? It's just, we got to figure, but those relationships were built in spite of, or before really the big internet and technology bang. So now you got kids that I can't even start conversations with on a bus stop or in the street because they got their headphones in. I can't even mess with them. I'll be driving out the car window down and they're riding their bike. I can't even scream at them and make them jump just for a laugh because they got their headphones in.
Chap, why is that the case? I'm sorry to cut you off, Charlene. I'm going to just say this real quick. So The
Go
first
ahead.
Saturday of every month, we're at the corner of Broadway and Bank Street, right? People walk by, they're on their scooters, they're on their bikes. Half of them do not hear us because they're like engaged in something else. And we're like, free coffee, free donuts, like trying to sign, like drink, eat, yum. And they're halfway across the street and trying to turn around, like, oh, wait, free? Oh, okay, yeah, I'm coming. It's like if you heard us, if you could hear us, that would have been great. But I also think about, isn't that kind of dangerous? Like you're on a scooter or a bike. If you can't hear us yelling, can you hear like
Look,
horns honking and stuff?
I'm
Like
not.
I don't
I'm
know.
not I'm not plugging my ears up when I leave the house. I live in the city, and it's not because I'm scared. Because you just have to be aware of your surroundings, like in your own neighborhood as well. You just have to be aware and alert, and you can't do that with if your head's down and your ears are plugged all the time. You can't be aware, but you also can't hide from anything like that. You know what I mean? It's gonna find you whether you're hiding in your phone or not.
Right. Hey, let's talk about that because like what the both of you discussed is situational awareness, right? Which I'm familiar with that.
Right,
But what makes people decide to tune out and decide to go inward? That's the discussion that needs to be had too. That's what that could be brought in because we're talking about being plugged in and being online and stuff. But at the same time, if folks are this tuned in, then we're talking about something else. It's like what is missing on the outskirts, or what's missing, what real interaction where that's the viable choice that you put yourself in harm's way unknowingly just so you don't interact. And also
right,
that's another thing too with the lot. The beautiful part about the lot is because it's in a community, it's set up, it's something unexpected because we know about these green spaces or these areas or alleys where you think when you get back there you're going to see a bunch of tires, abandoned cars, and all that. Not the case at all. Not the case at all. So we're also showing people what it looks like to have everything within your community. So you have light space, you have the broadband, the Wi-Fi, and most importantly, you have a gathering place where
right.
people sit and chat.
Break bread.
Have a little breakfast, a little something for you. Because if you come out, hey, and it is the day before Easter, why not show up?
Oh, it is the day before. Oh, I did not even realize that. Okay. Okay, so that's super exciting. So what's already out there is like a gravel like little area where you can grill, and that's a big space. And then it's like so much grass going up towards the top of the hill,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a
Where's it at?
pavilion.
Right, a
30,
pavilion,
yeah. I
a
want to
porta potty.
a porta potty, a pavilion Chap. I want to say it's at 3435.
It's 3545 Cliffmont
30.
Avenue. 35 is right behind it. Now we're going to explain this for those who are not in Baltimore, even for those who are in Baltimore. Sometimes we forget that we got all of these, this big space behind our houses, right? So
Alley
that's,
lot.
yeah, the huge lot. So when we say 3545, that is the starting point. You got to go through that alley and go into that spot. Otherwise, you're trying to park on the street and you go, where is it? I don't see it. No, it's at the lot.
And that's
Oh,
kind of what I did the first time. I drove up the hill. I made the left. I saw the address. And so I said, well, maybe
is
it's
and
the
it's
back
over.
of it.
It's off of
Go ahead.
Brems Lane. You guys got the painted trailer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. What's it? So what are you keeping there in the shipping container?
So in there, so this is Mr.
Or-
Richardson's lot.
Okay.
And so in that lot, he keeps the things to maintain the grass and
Oh,
such.
cool. Okay.
He does have some speakers in there, from what I understand, that he's trying to get rid of. And then he has some more like mulch and things like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's really just for storage. Go ahead.
It
Yeah.
looks like a nice spot for a micro shelter. I'm just saying.
Well,
the
also like because
plan.
people actually rent that lot out for events.
Yep.
So he keeps things in there. It pretty
Nice.
much like you are you familiar with the Why Not lot?
Oh yeah,
That's kind of yeah.
Harper and North and Charles.
Right, right.
Mhm.
So and they have stuff in there. So like for people that rent that lot
Mhm.
out, yeah, like chairs and tables and all that. So something similar on
That's
his lot.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
And
chat.
that's been quite a few activities. This is not my first go round in hosting an event on that lot.
Okay.
No, what was your other event? What type of
Well,
events
like
have
the
you hosted
biggest one
there?
last year was the Juneteenth event
Mhm.
with the UNIA. I'm sorry, UNIA organization. They
Mhm.
decided to do something to commemorate Juneteenth. So I got with Mr. Richardson and asked him if me and some people that I know can host an event there. And we hooked up with somebody who also was having an event that same day, and it turned out to be a big Black flea market and Juneteenth celebration.
Yeah, that's dope because right behind it, there's a huge parking space as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a huge parking lot. So it's a really great like event space as far as I can tell. So I'm excited for Saturday. And to your point, chat, that's what we're discussing. Putting a micro shelter back there, using it either as a pantry, but we need to talk to the community and see if they want a library pantry or
Right.
a produce pantry or a clothing pantry or a garden shed. Like, I don't know. Let's have a conversation. So that's
Mhm.
the idea. And then fingers crossed, the tiny home that's behind me might be at the lot until we'll see. We'll see. I'll let folks know, and it'll be a conversation. We'll announce it on the show one day, someday soon. So
I'm about
yeah,
to I'm about to bring Charlie over so he can buy a tiny home and move out.
you know what? Stop trying to kick the baby out.
He's 18, man. Done. No, he's doing good. Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. So Charlene, so what else do you have going on this weekend? You mentioned it was Easter. Are you doing anything? Are you planning anything after the event or on Sunday?
Um, I thought about that, and right now I'm with some other folks who are doing some things after Easter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll link in with them and see what they got going on, and see how I can support. If it's just letting everybody else know what's going on, yeah, I'll
You
do
sound
that.
like me. I'm not going to host anything, but I will come to said event or something that's already planned, but I'm not hosting anything. Maybe for Mother's Day. Go
Well,
ahead.
because like for me right now, because I'm dealing with a situation with my mother right now, so I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that she's taken care of. So I've been pulling back on hosting events because next month is also Baltimore ceasefire weekend. Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's coming up, and normally I'm doing something, but because of what's happening right now, it's like, well, I'll, I'll just wait until August ceasefire and see how things are for me.
Yeah,
But
to
yeah,
jump
Well,
back
I
in.
don't know if I'm allowed to ask you or not, but is there a competitiveness between like the Safe Streets group and the Ceasefire group? How do you guys
no,
collaborate
I'm gonna
pretty
tell you right
well?
now, nope,
Okay, okay.
no.
Because not being from either, people are very opinionated about one or the other. Sometimes both. So
Well,
I'm just
because
curious.
okay, so Safe Streets Bel Air Edison. I know the person, the coordinator there, Dante Johnson.
Hmm.
He makes sure that we working together. I'll send him
That's
some information.
that's what it's about.
He sends me information, so and I think the same thing for Woodbury. So I know that sometimes media or some people can make this about competition. I say, look, people still dying in these streets.
Look, you heard it here on
As I check,
BlackUSA.News.
so there's no
They're good.
competition here.
Right.
We got to do some work here.
We
Let's
do.
Right.
see.
Yeah, it's not even funny, man. We really do.
Right.
We really got a
Mm-mm.
lot of work to do. I was just curious.
Yeah.
I had one funny experience. where a young lady wearing a uniform of one of those agencies, I won't even put them out there, but she just got off the bus wearing the shirt and a hat. She comes over and starts a beef with security on a job I'm doing, and I'm like, baby, go home and change your shirt, then come back. Like, don't do that in uniform. You representing a mediation group. You're representing a peacekeeper in a city, and you out here starting stuff. Stop playing. So I'm not
Oh,
putting anybody out there, but it's a very ironic experience because a young lady herself, from working all day, in that environment, came off the bus stressed. She carried that. You know what I'm saying? And so, not to blame her, but to put in context, like, people are out here putting themselves in that situation, but then who's there for them when they're going home?
And that's another thing too, like peacekeeping work, anti-violence, or even non-violence, however you frame it, how people see it. It's not. I look at it as a calling. It's not something that you just say, "Hey, I'm gonna put a T-shirt on and I'm gonna go out here and love, peace, and light and everything else." There's levels to this,
Yes,
and there's
thank you. You
always been
can't.
levels to it. And then self-care is pretty important. Simply because if you don't take care of yourself, if you're not aware of the triggers that's on you, then you're going to inadvertently, harm somebody else. And Baltimore City has enough trauma.
And you just can't hire people and throw bodies at it and throw money at it, man. You really need, like you mentioned, you need those people that are that understand how they're built for it. Because there's many people that are built for it in many different ways, with purpose. Because I can fill in the gap where you can't, and Quida fills in the gap where I can't, and that's but if you're not invested in doing your part to make the city safe and peaceful, then you might just be doing it to get a paycheck, and that's not who we need doing that stuff. Period.
No, and I feel like that's the case for a lot of these jobs that are person to person and human being to human being. Like, part of the issue is that we don't treat humans like human beings, like they're numbers at some point, or a dollar amount, and that's the problem. Like, these are real lives that are behind these ideas. So one of the things that I wanted to get back to were solutions. So we're talking about training folks, we're talking about bringing resources to the community lot. What do you see happening after these two events? We did the one at Bel Air Edison. We have the event coming up Saturday. Did you think past that? What kind of questions do you want to ask the community?
Because it is a project. It first of all, because we use the word event, but it's an actual project, so it's ongoing. Because the main thing is to the vision behind this is to at least have Wi-Fi set up in that lot in some kind of way beyond that, because that's going to be the project, a continuous project. And also inviting people to participate in these classes that they'll sponsor. And it's like this applying, and if you get accepted, it's a learning experience. And also,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And also, because there's like I said, there's jobs, and there's careers around internet, around digital access, around computer science and everything else, that we also expose people to those areas, those professions that they may not even be aware of. Because who's coming to them? If we're not coming to them, who else is coming to them to let them know?
And to that point, like, we did not do very much online advertising. There was what I call hand-to-hand combat, going doors and knocking on doors, because this is that's the population that we need to reach. Like, the folks that have access to Instagram and Eventbrite are not the people that we want in the room, unfortunately. Not this time around. Like, we really want to get to the people who don't have any access, so that when they see, hey, like, free internet training or whatever the case, that they feel confident enough to come out and understand that this is geared specifically toward them and it's a safe space. So I love that, the hand-to-hand combat is happening, that the ultimate goal is to, create a Wi-Fi connectivity for that community, because we know Bel Air Edison is struggling, and in some cases, the 4x4 is really at a deficit. There are just communities that could really benefit from this, and doesn't take it doesn't take rocket science or $1 million. I think we can all figure it out.
And let's talk about the hand-to-hand combat, because in the initial planning of this is so funny. It's a mindset, because when you're used to a particular thing and used to doing it in a certain way, you always got to remember, the targeted audience. So I say that because we was in the room, and me and some folks who was like, yeah, we're gonna put it on Eventbrite and do all this stuff. And Quida's like, wait a minute, aren't we like contradicting ourselves?
Like, that's way too easy.
Right.
Those aren't the people that we want. And it's not that we don't want them in the room ever. It's just we don't want them in the room right now. Like, we want to work with our most vulnerable. And, getting to them is difficult. And that's why we started at the elementary, middle school, to make sure that folks who needed it, that were at that school right there, could just come to a familiar place and get their, hands-on training.
Right. Absolutely. And that's how things supposed to work anyways, because sometimes the language around reaching the vulnerable population, what that looks like in terms of whether it's digital access or is violence interruption, or even environmental factors, whatever it is, or even art. Because I was in our space this past Saturday with a bunch of artists, and I asked them, how should art show up in the community? Right. So there's this thing of wanting people to go to a thing, and it's like, no, that thing needs to come to them.
Bring it. Oh, so we need to talk about that, because if I can get the tiny home there, like, these walls are bare, like, they're just white. And so I would love to have like a little tiny art gallery, like a little mobile art gallery. I think that would be so dope.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. Okay, so not now. Still digital equity. Okay, so back to focusing.
And so look at
go ahead, Chapo.
What's the date, time, and address again? Let's revisit that.
All right. So again, the address is 3545 Cliffmont Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21213. The lot is making good in our community. And that's, the address is, that reference point is right behind that house.
And what time? And what time again?
It's from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m.
Okay. 10 a.m., 12 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big lot, y'all. Just go down the alley. You'll see the big blue trailer. I've been down there. All right.
Yeah, I'm excited. Go ahead.
And I know some people popped in. I want to say hello to all of the folks that popped in. I didn't quite get your names, but welcome. Glad to see you. And thank you for the privilege of your time.
Absolutely. Like, we love for the folks. People were tuning in from California. I got a couple text messages from folks. So the good thing is that people are always tuning in. We're always available one way or another. There's food distribution and produce distribution at 2555 Harford Road with Creative Influence, Reach Partners. Why do I always mess up the school name?
Reach Partnership. Yeah.
Reach Partnership, which is the Old Cliff.
For my BlackUSA.News Nation, for my Black Wall Street, Baltimore Black Wall Street Nation, we're we're organizing the Pennsy Ave parade with Officer Lee and Officer Anderson, his partner in crime for this event, stated that we need Mario and Drew Hill. So y'all reach out to me, reach out to Donnie. We're gonna make that happen for Pennsy Ave.
Mario and Drew Hill, some local legends. Okay,
Nice.
I like it. I like it. Go ahead.
Oh, real quick, Chap, I just sent a link. As one of the partners for this project is Code in the Schools. They do have a website. So I don't know if you can make it public. There we go. That's it. So those who are listening and watching, just go to that website and see the amazing work they're doing.
Yeah, they're doing. Yeah, they're doing some awesome things. They teach kids how to use the computers. They train folks. They're going to be there on Saturday. So if folks know someone who, that needs a Genius bar, but isn't going to go to the Apple store in Towson because that's not their jam, they can come out to the community lot with us, bring their modem, bring their device, and get some hands-on training and introductions to, some of these tools that, everybody just assumes because the kids, they know how to use these things at 2 and 3 years old. So that's really not the age group that we're concerned about, to be completely honest. But all are welcome, right?
All are welcome. Amen.
Amen, amen, amen. So I'll see you guys on Sunday, or first I'll see you Saturday. But Saturday will be in Bel Air Edison. On Sunday, walk with the doc, 9 a.m. Meet us at the top of Lake Montebello, where 33rd and is that 33rd? Yeah, I feel like it's 33rd and Hillin.
It's 33rd.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah. Mm-hmm. And go ahead, Chapo.
Stay tuned for Robert and the Robert Report at 8:00. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Charlene.
Thank you so much. We're privileged. I hope we have more conversation. Yep.
I was happy to have you. Happy to have you. And did you have any last 30-second remarks?
None other than just thank you. Thank you for the partnership and the collaboration.
Absolutely. I like to share space. All right, folks. So come back, same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks for coming out. God bless. Good night. And we'll see you next week.